Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Bundesliga show. We're checking in tonight for another match week review, as we always do on a Monday night. And Peter's joining me again, and Peter, just realised that we're kind of matching up tonight, both sporting a hoodie, both kind of beigey sort of colour, so we're already in sync.
That's right. We are the hoodie masters. We can. You want to put it up there? We'll be a couple of footballing monks.
We could be some hooligans tonight, couldn't we? We're looking forward to getting stuck into another match week that's flown by in the Bundesrepublik. Peter, you're back in sweet home. So we'll be able to look forward to a bit of kiosk action with yourself in a second. Then we've got a featured 5 tonight, loads of goals, loads of stuff to work our way through. So really looking forward to talking about all those games, best of the rest as well. Sit back, enjoy along with us. It should be a great show. Before we do, as always, if you can leave a like on the show, that'd be fantastic. And see Justin is tuning in. I hope you're doing well this morning for you, of course. Comment, subscribe, turn on those notifications. Also, big shout out to our audio listeners as well who listen via podcasts. We've got a great following on YouTube and via podcasts, wherever audio platform you listen on. So we appreciate you all, and we hope that you enjoy tonight with us. Of course, big shout out to our 2 partners that we have. Of course, the brilliant Bundesliga boxes and the excellent Bully News. If I can make sure that I get that out there. There we are. And that's where you can follow bullynews.com on X. Right then, Peter, I think we'll kickstart with a bit of kiosk, as we haven't had it so far this season. So do you want to run us through what's made the headlines in Germany this weekend?
Absolutely. Aided by a pair of scissors this time, I've put together a few things. Ordinarily, the great Bayern München Oktoberfest photo shoot is the purview of my colleague Rune over at Bully News, and I'm sure he'll have some more pictures up for you tomorrow. But I went ahead and got this one out of this morning's Bild. As you can see, Vincent Company dispensed with the socks. There's Harry Kane and his lovely wife, probably getting started on a 5th or 6th child later that evening with the amount of beer that they're consuming. And there's Leon Goretzka. I'm not entirely sure if they made him sit at the kids' table outside the Big Tent. But anyways, there's a little bit of Bavarian photo shoot action for you. I knew, Rory, that you would appreciate the 5-Tor-Rache am BVB. We'll get to that, of course. That is the 5-goal revenge of VfB Stuttgart on Borussia Dortmund, spoiling the return of Waldemar Anton and Serhou Guirassy to the MHP arena. And as somebody who, in our OTB vlogs, has bowed before Kicker, Germany's preeminent footballing publication, it was my great pleasure, of course, to make the sacred schlep to the kiosks and pick up my, hand copy of Kicker, my hard copy of Kicker. This reads Großes Kino. Kino, of course, as you may know, means cinema, but this is translated to must-see TV, and that's what we have next weekend for you as the German record champions, FSV Bayern München, are squaring off against the defending champions Bayer Leverkusen. So a great weekend of action to come. Don't miss any of it over on the world's best footballing beat.
Excellent stuff. Thank you very much for that, Peter. Always a pleasure to have a kiosk to get us excited as to what we've already watched this weekend and what's obviously to come as well. Right then, we're going to get stuck into it. We've got 5 games that we're going to really concentrate on tonight. Again, going to run through it chronologically. And yes, again, Peter, the Friday night game produces the goods. So far this season, it's been very much a game not to take your eyes off. And this was certainly the case for this Friday just gone. Augsburg just falling short against Mainz in a greatly entertaining matchup, which obviously Mainz just getting over the line 3-2 in the end. A couple of goals for Johnny Burkhardt. Really lovely to see that. And yet another weekend of many braces, actually. So we had quite a lot last weekend. Maybe not as many this weekend, but we had a good few again. And yeah, Johnny got himself 2. I mean, this game it was wild, really. I mean, the home side actually started quite well in this match, but ultimately it was Mainz that strode out and got 2 quickfire goals, really well-worked goals, and both assisted by Moine down the left-hand side. Obviously, the first being, a cross by the byline, kind of stood up for Armindo Sieb, who is obviously on loan from Bayern. His first real impact, for Mainz, really good header with good power to make it 1-0. And just a few minutes later, again, the fullback for Mainz got forward, but this time a slightly different cross, cutting in still from the left, but using his right foot to do an in-swinging cross, setting up Johnny Burkhardt, who had already started off the move, to finish off a really nice glancing header to make it 2-0. But then straight back into it, the home side came, a deep free kick from Marius Wolf. I think it was Guileu I think he was the one who got the kick back into Schlotterbeck, who smashed it in from close range. Makes it 2-1. And then the first real, I mean, we've already had 3 goals and, we're only half an hour in. But the first real moment of unfortunateness and stupidity arises for Mainz as, the highly rated and, very much praised Amiri gets himself 2 yellows in a couple of minutes, Peter. A first of 2 red cards. Thoughts on this one? I mean, Amiri did not hang around to see what his punishment would be. He knew what was going to happen. He was already halfway down the tunnel by the time the referee got the red card out. I get doing professional fouls and in the right moments of games, because I'll talk about that later on in a particular game I want to highlight. But real stupidity, unfortunately, from Amiri there.
Yes, I agree. He can have no complaints about getting sent off on that second yellow.
And so, on we went, but no more goals in the first half. Very close game. And I think, obviously, the second half was very much a second half of Augsburg chances, and we'll get into the other red card and chances galore for the home side. But it was obviously the 10 men of Mainz who got themselves out again, and it was a similar kind of position that they focused on, getting that cross in from kind of just inside, in line with the penalty area, just a few yards back, and crossed in by Barkok this time, who came on for Sieb, which obviously was a real shame because he had such a good start to the match, but obviously they had to reshuffle Mainz, to make do with their 10 men, which is a great shame. Anyway, Barkok makes the cross, and Johnny Burkhardt does really well, ghosting in at the back post to kind of stretch, poke the ball home to make it 3-1. And Peter, walk us through the rest of this match. I mean, there's plenty for us to get stuck into. Obviously, starting off with, it was a very much a hit and miss 10 minutes for the Augsburg forward Sende.
Absolutely. Sende did pull a goal back shortly after Mainz or Burkhardt scored there. It was Giannoulis on the assist, an excellent team goal during what was an excellent team night for Augsburg. They dominated Mainz in pretty much every statistical category. We arrive at the first bit of controversy not long after Sende's 2-3, and that was namely the fact that 8 minutes after that goal was scored, or actually, not 8 minutes, that was 13 minutes after that goal was scored, Sende himself was sent off on a straight red, despite the fact that replays confirm that it was none other than Dominic Hardcore, one of our favorite nickname players here on Over the Bar, who instigated some retaliation from Sende. The play was deemed not VAR reviewable, of course. Augsburg thought they had a chance to equalize at the death, much as they did in the opening, or they thought that they had a chance to win against Bremen on the season's opening match day, when a late penalty was awarded. But after VAR review, match official Søren Storks, who was given a D- in the German press for losing control of this highly turbulent match, took the penalty back. Now, it happens to be my opinion that this was a good call to take the penalty back, and I'll get your opinion on that in a moment, because Sylvain Widmer did not actually hinder Kevin Schlotterbeck in the box there. But in any event, this was a crazy night between two Danish trainers. I was reporting on the match live from Copenhagen in a bar with a bunch of crazy Danes themselves. And so many different twists and turns in this, so much tactical shifting between the two trainers. And of course, the sight of Jes Torup falling onto the pitch with his head in hands at the death after that penalty was taken back more or less exemplified what a crazy match this was. So what we have here, I believe, in summation, and I'll flip it over to you in just a second, also get your thoughts on that penalty, was we had an instance of Augsburg really dominating in, as I said, every last statistical category. I can go ahead and look this up really quickly. So it's, passes was 541 to 202. Shots on goal 29 to 4.
Yeah.
This is, yes, possession 73% to 27% possession. Unbelievable. And yet still they lost. Obviously, it goes without saying that they won the XG battle as well. Bo Henriksen, who is my Bully News colleagues, Rune's preferred Dane, deserves an awful lot of credit in this one for when Amiri was sent off. He did not immediately shell up in a 5-3-1 and instead continued to roll with a 3-4-2. And that's how Burkhardt ended up getting his brace. And by extension, the game-winning goal. Rather interesting to note here that... well, there's several interesting things to note beyond the tactics that I just mentioned. Burkhardt, without a doubt, is back. His efficiency in front of goal has been absolutely ruthless this season. I recall our colleague Mark saying that he thought he was done. I never believed that. Kevin Schlotterbeck, in addition to grousing a little bit about the refereeing afterwards, put the nail on the head and said, well, why did Augsburg lose tonight besides these various officiating problems? He said, well, we failed to defend 3 out of the 4 crosses that Mainz sent into the box. So that, in that sense, despite the statistical superiority, this was very much a deserved result, because the Mainzer back 3, with a little bit of dirty stuff from Dominic Hardcore and Moritz Mercedes Jens, really going with the nicknames tonight. Can I go ahead and also announce that they're calling him Frank the Tank on Yeka now? That's a really good one, I think.
That is a good one.
In any event, Mainz, they really, that back 3 of Henke, Olsen, Jens, and Kor, they defended so many crosses, and they defended so well, and they cleared well, and they had it out of the box well, and Augsburg just didn't at the crucial moments. And that's why I think, despite all of these numbers that we were just flaring up, I think this was a fair result. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think it was, absolutely a fair result. The stats obviously that you've gone through, I was looking at myself. Mine scored from their 3 shots on target that they managed to muster all game long. And I'm glad you mentioned the efficiency of Burkhardt in front of goal as well. That's something I wanted to talk about a little bit. Great seeing him back looking so sharp. And yeah, I mean, the red card for obviously Ascende is obviously the action in which where he lashes out is something that I suppose that in this modern day has to be a red card. You can see the regret on his face when he realizes what's going to happen after being so involved in good things that Augsburg were doing and having had a positive start to his career in general. I thought that was really unfortunate for him, but he's just been goaded into doing, something stupid, which you have to make sure that you're not in elite level football. Because didn't he have a shot cleared off the line not long after his goal, I think, before he got sent off. So, in another world, he could have been on a hat trick. But, these things happen in football. But yeah, great game, great way to start us off the weekend. For Augsburg, I feel like they've not been playing badly, but now they also have a bit of a harder stretch of fixtures as well, if I can say that without offending too many teams, because I don't, their start in theory hasn't been as horrible, but in their next 7 fixtures, they're up against Leipzig, Freiburg, Dortmund and Bayern. So obviously, if you don't get any points for any of those 4, and based on what happens in the other 3, never an easy game in the league these days. They could well be on the ugly side of the league table. Mainz, really solid start overall, and that was a really important game for them to get over the line, because you could see the reaction on all the players' faces. So yeah, what a fantastic game it was to enjoy on Friday night. Right, and speaking of teams that need points on the board, indeed, these 2 teams were very, very desperate come Saturday afternoon to try and get on the board. They both are on the board now, Peter, after a 2-2 draw in Bochum. Again, a game that was quite topsy-turvy, quite an interesting watch. Bochum had made the more positive. Well, actually, to be fair, it was quite even early doors, but Kiel get themselves out early doors via a nice bit of play to set up Pitchler. Although I think it was Kilati who makes the ball forward. However, the actions of, is it Druez? Am I probably butchering the pronunciation of that? Why does he come charging out so far on such a poor angle? And when you look at the replays, and the replays might be showing different angles, and maybe it's my illusion, but it looks like Bochum have cover in the defense to cover Pitchler's oncoming run. So I thought that was a really bizarre bit of keeping, to be frankly honest, and obviously sets up an early lead for Kiel. However, the home side worked themselves back into it and, complete the turnaround only 35 minutes into the match. The first of their goals was set up by great play by one of their new boys, and one of the new boys I think you mentioned early on in the season, Peter, was Boadu. Great determination, great strength. Even after falling over, he still manages to get the ball into the box for Brero to finish really neatly. So that's 1-1. And then I think the second goal was a bit more messy, but cross then comes in. Hoffman does really well to compose himself, get the ball down at his feet, and set up Dashner to score I thought this is a really, really neat goal, actually, because it really, really smart, great technique outside the boot to curl it in and make it 2-1. I thought that was the only finish that he probably could do from that angle, so I thought that was really, really clever. Kiel had their chances as well. Kilati probably should have scored before the half to make it 2-2 anyhow. Gigovic had a very good chance, pretty much bang on exactly the same chance as what Kilati had. That was in the second half. Bochum might have been able to get a little bit further ahead later on in the second half. But it's that man again. We've talked about nicknames and we've talked about names that we like saying, but Shuto Machino managed to get his second goal of his Bundesliga career from really smart, quick thinking work by Kiel, catching Bochum snoozing at a free kick. They play the ball, down the wide channel. and that was for who set up the goal? Skibberski, I think it was, who got the assist. Yeah, really nicely done. Pulls the ball across for Machino to get on the end of. Nice finish through the keeper for 2-2. Drama wasn't done there though, because it was very nearly a winner for the home side. Sissoko putting in a cross for I'm going to completely butcher this name, Panewig, who got his head on the cross.
Yeah. No, your pronunciation's fine. Boadu, Panewig, Machino, you're doing great.
Yeah, well, there we go. But yeah, I mean, that could have been a desperate moment for Kiel, but they did hold on to earn the point in the end. Yeah, what did you make of this one, Peter? I mean, yeah, both sides would have been. Both sides obviously wanted the win. The 3 points are the things that push you outside of trouble, but both, I suppose, will also be relieved to, at least be off the mark.
Absolutely. Yes. You mentioned the keeping by Druis. Last I heard, Manuel Riemann's attempts to sue the club to allow him back into first team training, that sports arbitration case has been delayed. It's been cleared off the docket twice. I don't know. Perhaps they should really consider taking him back after what we saw there. I was surprised that the XG bore out a Kiel victory in this case, because Bochum did have their chances. You mentioned Boadu, who contributed some nice play from both the right and the left during that strong phase for Bochum near the end of the first half. Mm-hmm. Daschner, who's gotten off to a terrible start this season, an excellent finish from him. However, for the second consecutive week, Bochum have blown the lead, just like they did against Freiburg last week. And your description of what happened on that set piece there was quite apt. They completely fell asleep on it. The only pronunciation that you didn't get right was good old Steven Skripski.
Skripski, right?
Yeah. The blast from the past, you may remember him from Fortuna Düsseldorf and also FC Schalke 04. He was originally an Union Berlin player, but then he made the jump to the top flight, got relegated with Düsseldorf and Schalke in consecutive years, and now may very well get relegated with Kiel again. But I mean, this is obviously huge for Kiel. They got their first point ever in the Bundesliga. This is something that they can build on. Holtby really came back, I think, strong and had an excellent match. The captain did. Knudsen did a good job as the bolt walk sweeper. Pickler now has a couple of goals, and our man Shuto Machino. Do you remember when we were covering the DFL protests with the tennis balls, and we couldn't, you, myself, and Mark couldn't figure out what the apparatus was that was shooting the tennis balls out on the pitch? We should call that a Shuto Machino, is what.
That would be a great name for it.
But in any event, this is very bad news for Bochum. This is terrible news for Bochum. They have the dubious honor of being one of the only top tier side to be eliminated in the first round of the Pokal. 3 defeats. Now this 2 blown leads. Seidler's young coaching regime, and this is a very, very old guy to have in his first Bundesliga trainer position, is hanging by a thread now. One of the most important things about this match is that he yanked Erhan Masovic, one of his staple defenders, early and moved Sissoko into the back four. And there's already been a lot of questions about Seidler's tactics. He's been using these 4-4-2 diamond variants that have all sorts of space that doesn't make a lot of sense. Daschner, despite his goal, seems to be playing in the position that Danny de Witt was intended for. We have Brzezinski really, really having trouble finishing. Hoffmann making some mistakes, and Hoffmann did much, much better in this match, but Brzezinski is still having difficulty. And Boadu, he's made the right move bringing Boadu into the starting lineup, but really de Witt should be playing up further. Sissoko should remain a holding 6 midfielder or sweeper or something. He shouldn't be in the back four. and he needs to get his striker situation sorted out. So I don't know. I think that's my bet for the first coach to get sacked this year, because it just doesn't look like it's going to get better for poor foul-fed Bochum.
No.
So Kiel, even though they just got a point, definitely came out the winners here, I would say.
Oh, yeah. No, I think he'll definitely be happier. I don't think either will necessarily be happy looking up their upcoming fixtures as well. We've already talked about Augsburg's kind of fixture list in the next few games. Bochum, well, I mean, they've got a local derby to, get themselves going for at least next week. Obviously against Dortmund. But then in the next few games, they also have Bayern and Frankfurt. Like you say, if they all go the wrong way, we could see our first management reshuffle of the season. Definitely things to be positive about from a Kiel perspective. Of course, we had to commentate and review their unfortunate demise against Bayern, which we were rightfully critical and highlighted mistakes or learnings for them. Very, very pleased to see that they got their first ever Bundesliga point. Amazing stuff for them. However, they do have some tricky games coming up as well. So fingers crossed that they can keep going on this upward trajectory, it would seem. Right then, we'll move on because time is precious for us this evening. Let's talk about Werder Bayern. This might be a game that we don't talk about as much because again, Bayern didn't necessarily make it much of a match. But again, striking out 5 goal winners against Werder, who of course had been previously shocking us with a really good performance and away win against Mainz. But just we're never up to it against Vincent Kompany's Bayern. And I think, one thing which is obvious to say, because he scored 2 goals, he got 2 assists, but Michael Olise, a new Bayern superstar is born for me, really. I was happy to say that, when the transfer went through, I was like, okay, interesting. Didn't necessarily rate it that highly, but, call me stupid, call me naive. He's been absolutely excellent since coming in into the Rekordmeister side. I mean, his dribbling ability, the assist that he got was so clean, such great footwork, excellent finishing. An all-round game that was just superb for the away side, just excellent. Kane, Musiala and Gnabry getting goals themselves, as you would expect. And our Ari has managed to get himself yet another record because he's now the highest scoring English player in Bundesliga history, 41st Bundesliga goal. Didn't take him too long. So well done, Harry. Great achievement there. I'm sure there will be many more to come. Peter, thoughts and theories. I think we were saying off air, or at least I was saying off air, I think the jury, and we will learn more about this Bayern side in the games to come. But another excellent afternoon for them, and what's been an excellent week for a Werder side that did not get a shot on goal the entire damn day.
0.0 xG from FSV Werder Bremen. Indeed, as you so correctly pointed out. Not a contest, not much of a football match. We have to give them credit. That's what you were, of course, saying off air, particularly Michael Olise and Jamal Musiala and Harry Kane. The goals are spread all about throughout this roster at the moment, although a defender has not scored in the league yet, of course. But what more can you say about Bayern? They have scored 20 goals this week. That's pretty damn good. I mean, it's actually, we're going to get into Leverkusen next. It's hard to look forward to this so-called top match between Bayern and Leverkusen when Bayern are in such amazing form. I don't, you know, I think the English perspective of Vincent Kompany's appointment and the German perspective was very, very different. I mean, for very, very legitimate reasons after you saw him struggle at Burnley. The Germans, I think we knew with Max Eberl in charge and this huge this huge summer transfer window, we just kind of knew it didn't really matter if it was the 5th or 6th choice that got the coaching appointment. You know, they've gone ahead. The bear has been poked, so to speak. Bayern are actually represented by a bear mascot, and now the bear is angry, and the bear is out of hibernation, and the Bavarian bear is running roughshod all over the place. They've taken it personally, their trophyless year, and they are on a rampage. So with that in mind, I suppose we better get to Leverkusen and Wolfsburg.
Yeah, very much so. Great few days for Bayern, and unfortunately, there's not much more to be said about the game. For Werder fans, just brush it off, go again. You know, it's one of those afternoons that you want to forget very quickly, which I'm sure they'll bounce back, Ole Werner's side, very, very soon. So let's talk about Leverkusen, Wolfsburg, and the Sunday games, because these games absolutely. I mean, this game was very much like Friday night's game, topsy-turvy, crazy match, very hard to follow if you're trying to take notes or anything like that. But 4-3, Leverkusen again, Peter. We'll talk about the ending and maybe the second half a little bit in a second. But, let's talk positive about Wolfsburg, because we don't do that an awful lot for good reason as well, because they've not been very positive. But even, early on into the match, obviously they took the shock lead. But even in those few minutes early on, they were showing good signs. The own goal comes from Mukiele, who I guess you can call him unfortunate on the goal. I'll just ask you outright anyway, Peter. For me, I feel that as a defender myself, and probably not a very good one, but he's a bit too slow to react. He's not attacking the ball himself, so he allows Thiago Thomas to get ahead of him, and therefore the deflection comes, and unfortunately that's what happens afterwards. But for me, Mukiele is just sloppy on the ball. Would you agree, or do you think it's just a bit of bad luck?
Yeah, it was unlucky. It was an unlucky welcome back to the Bundesliga for the former Leipzig man. The Thomas, it took an unlucky deflection off Thomas, I would say, and that's a nightmare start for a very good player.
Fair enough. So soon after, though, it did not take the champions very long to get back into the match. Florian Wirtz, kind of mishitting a shot, or again, might be taking due credit away from him here, but not the cleanest of strikes that he'll ever hit. After Granit Xhaka pulled it back to him on the edge of the area. Nice bit of play there. So that's 1-1. Only 15 minutes into the game here. Short while after, on the half hour, is when the champions managed to fully convert the comeback, or the first of a few of their comebacks, after Jonathan Tah had managed to get free at a corner. Another bit of VAR interception or checking had to come, whether there was a foul in the build-up on the set piece. It was either Wirtz or Grimaldo that was involved in that, I think. Altercation.
It was Wirtz, it was clearly, I think, an illegal block from him. So he got a soft hit goal and then got away with an illegal block on Jonathan Tah's second.
Yeah, so a favourable few minutes for one of Germany's young talents there. So I think at that point, 2-1, half an hour into the game at home. Now with the momentum, I was like, okay, game over. 3-4, 5-1, whatever it's going to be. Leverkusen go into overdrive for a little bit and finish the match off. not to be the case. Not at all. So the equaliser for Wolfsburg comes not long after, 5 minutes in, and Leverkusen themselves exposed at a set piece. A whipped in corner is headed in by Bornau. Again, we'll talk about maybe the details of the Leverkusen defense in a little while, but Radetzky not being able to get to a punch, so 2-2 there is. And just before we're done for the half, a truly excellent goal by Svanberg as he took the ball inside the Leverkusen half, but is able to run through the middle of the pitch, middle of the defense and midfield, basically unchallenged and undeterred. Is able to get a shot away, really nicely curled in to make it 3-2. Excellent stuff, really. So first half, just madness. So, because Leverkusen weren't then to concede any more goals, Peter, let's just quickly talk about those 3 goals that we had from Wolfsburg and maybe what you noticed from a Leverkusen point of view. It's something that our dear colleague Mark, who is very much missed, and hopefully he'll be back this week, by the way, he was concerned about how easily the goals went in. Do you share that concern?
Well, not only do I share that concern, but Granit Xhaka went on an absolute rampage in his post-match interview with German broadcaster DAZN and unleashed, a huge diatribe. I wrote an article on it, and it's rarely the case that I have to write, I think it was 3 separate paragraphs, maybe even 4 of quotes from Xhaka, who just absolutely went on a rampage and said, we cannot defend like this, particularly not at home. We've already allowed in 9 league goals this season after allowing in 24 in the entirety of last season. So this is not a championship season for Leverkusen if they defend in such a manner. Both sides were awful in terms of their set piece defending in this one. Maybe with the exception of the 14th minute Wörth's effort was Taha. That was a great set piece from Leverkusen that initially didn't go as planned because of solid keeping. But Leverkusen did not look good in this match at all. And when we get to the second half, we have a lot of luck that goes on here. I mean, that was appalling Wolfsburg defending on Hincapie's equalizer 4 minutes after the restart. We then have Yannick Gerhardt sent off on, I think it was a vicious stomp. It really was. No football player wants to take the studs in the position that Gerhardt laid out Frimpong. Was it Frimpong?
It was, yeah.
Okay, but it didn't look intentional to me.
No.
And so after, I think, a lot of really languid play from Diviaksev in the second half, after that red card, there was a little bit more energy, and we saw the Leverkusen theatrics, taking nothing away from Victor Boniface's finish on the turn, by the way. I mean, for such a big man to finish like that on the turn, I'm not quite sure how that's physiologically possible. I enjoyed watching it 2-3 times on the replay there. But Xhaka was pointing out that the tactics were scrambled. His teammates were not courageous at all in getting on the duels. Their marking was very, very loose. Xhaka was ranting about the basics failing before Nuri Sahin and Valdemar Anton were ranting about the basics failing in the match that we're about to discuss. And then afterwards, at the post-match press conference, Xabi Alonso completely capitulated and said, "Xhaka is right. He's right. He's absolutely correct. We played terribly." He personally said that he made a lot of mistakes, and he did. His tactics were terrible. He had this weird 4-2-2-2 that bears no resemblance to the Leipzig one. I mean, you're talking like Alex Garcia and Xhaka, and then there was Wirtz and Grimaldo and Adli and Schick, and they were on these like interchanging Jenga axes. It was wildly inappropriate. And Xabi was seriously rattled at the presser. I mean, he speaks such good German, but he kept stumbling through his words, and he kept reaching for English words and everything. He looked really concerned, and he looked really worried for good reason. I guess that amounts to us saying some positive things about Wolfsburg. they have some cause to feel hard done by a little bit in this match. Even though you know my feelings on Wolfsburg, and particularly Ralf Hasenhüttl. Yes, he did some. He had a solid 4-1-4-1 in this one, and he made an interesting tactical change near the end of the half that confused the hell out of Leverkusen. He read Xabi's tactics very, very well, and then he yanked and then he brought in Koulidrakis for Baku, and that confused Leverkusen to the point that Svanberg was able to just punch through and run through and score that goal, which is another thing that Xhaka was furious about.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, oh boy, I don't. You know what? You got to give me a couple days before we tip Bayern Leverkusen. I mean, because if I'm going to tip it right now, I'm just going to say Bayern is going to stomp them, and I don't want to say that. So we got to think about that.
Yeah, I mean, you're right to talk us through everything that Leverkusen probably were exposed by and upset by and angry with themselves. I'm just interested because, maybe if this game happened last season, and, it might not be the case, but do we pay as much attention to the frailties or the odds, the odd set piece? The fact that, of course, they're in the spotlight more because they are the Bundesliga champions. They are, and we saw them dismantling, who do they play in the Champions? Feyenoord, wasn't it? And whatever you say about the Dutch league or quality of 4-0 at halftime in the Champions League is excellent work, and everyone then is saying how good they are. They're unreal. They're here in the Champions League, to do the business, and then they still win a game. They do a Leverkusen, and now everyone's a bit more. So I'm tentative to overreact. Not that I'm saying that you are, Peter. I'm just interested, but the way everyone's reacted to this game. I don't fear for Leverkusen as much as other people do ahead of this Bayern match. I think it'll be super competitive. Can't wait for it overall. But yeah, of course they have to tighten up, and I think they'll probably learn a lot from this game ahead of that match for sure. Yeah, excellent win. Leverkusen at it again. Unlucky for the Wolves. Right then, on to our final featured 5 game of the weekend. Yes, well, it I must say this fills my heart with joy and more joy and joy again. Stuttgart 5, Borussia Dortmund 1. I can barely get my words out. I'm still so kind of shocked by it. I mean, yeah, just the start was exceptional. That first 25 minutes, give or take, was unbelievable, I thought. I think this result is just something that has been round the corner for VfB, because what happened in the Champions League was so frustrating after they played so well. They've played some excellent games and periods of play already this season, and it just felt like something like this was around the corner. Whether I thought it was going to be a 5-1 against Borussia Dortmund is another question. And I think there's not often where in a game I'm kind of thinking like you here, Peter, and I'm thinking more about the tactics rather than the feel of play or whatever however I absorb my footy. But I mean, for me, Nuri Sahin, he started off with a broken system, in which Stuttgart completely opened up their right-hand side with absolute freedom, with absolute ease as you can. He then fixed it when they made the substitution, or made it better when he brought on Gittins for Nemecha. I thought they secured things a little bit better and had those chances towards the end of the first half. Gittins involved, and then I think they had a header from a corner, I think it was, might have been Sula. That could have made it 2-1 at halftime and a bit more, etchy, sketchy. But then they broke it again. Thereafter, with substitutions that they made at half time, I want to say. And I was just flabbergasted by it, honestly. And, whether that's, I think Stuttgart win the game anyway, because they were just so good everywhere. But yeah, for me, Sahin really butchered it twice. Which is a really interesting thing for me to see as obviously as a football fan. What did you make of the game, the tactics, just everything?
Your read was absolutely correct. What he did was, Sahin has been fluctuating back and forth between this 3-4-3 and 4-2-3-1 recently. With the 4-2-3-1 having such great success against Heidenheim in the previous round, and we were just talking about that. So he goes back to the 3-4-3, a very, very tight 3-4-3 in the Champions League, and then he starts off with this 4-2-3-1. And as you correctly pointed out, he fixed it well by bringing in Gittins for Felix Nemecha, and then having Gittins and Brandt sort of work as a set of double eights. But then he brought in Jan Couto and Rami Benzebaini for Ryerson and Adeyemi at the half, and went to a back three, and had Brandt and Sabitzer just sort of supporting Guirassy in a solo role. Now, I should mention that in the second half, some things nearly did work. Brandt did have a chance to get Dortmund back in the game, and Guirassy did score his first goal on what was a nice Borussia Dortmund counter. But Guirassy's goal is pretty much immaterial, because I think by the time that Enzo Milo made it 3-0, this game was a foregone conclusion, and Milo was left to play around. Oh good God, what a game from him! How about that dribble down the line on Torres' goal? That was just incredible. And there was actually a moment. Justin brought up Derek Ray, who is the only thing. When I come back from the States to Germany, I'm back home. I'm covering the Bundesliga on site. Everything's moving, but I don't get Derek Ray. So I'm closer to him physically, but I didn't get to hear him call that other game. I will tell you what the German commentators said about Enzo Milo. They said, Gottes Willen, Himmels Willen. In God's name, what does this kid think that he's doing? So I didn't have Derek Ray, but I got to hear the German commentators essentially deify Enzo Milo for his performance. Wonderful performance from him. Also from Leveling, who I was surprised a little bit to see settle in on that left wing there.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Rory. It's been a topsy, sort of a topsy-turvy week for you, but this was a fabulous win. I think that Mittelstadt and Wagnermann also had their moments in this one. It seems like they've arrived on the scene now. Nübel was the one who made that save at 45 plus 3 on Gittins that could have really seriously altered the tenor of the match.
Mm-hmm.
With Marc-Andre ter Stegen's injury confirmed now, we might even see Nübel as the new Germany number 1 in the October international break. Congratulations on that too, as if there's not a Stuttgart in the German national team. Very, very bad performance tactically from Sahin, who I didn't appreciate in his post-match interview that he talked about how, he talked about basics, he talked about his team, he talked about how I don't want to see this from my team again. But unlike Xabi Alonso, he didn't take personal responsibility for his tactics, which I'm a big proponent of. If you got your match plan wrong, just come out and admit it, please.
Yeah,
I think that's incredibly important.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, just amazing all round. Like you mentioned, the Mio performance was out of this world. The dribble, the composure, the finishing, everything was excellent. I think you're right to highlight Wagnerman and Mittelstadt. I thought they're excellent. I thought Rouault was also damn good on his first start for a while. I thought it was very ballsy of Hernes to make as many changes as he did to the defensive line. So I thought, yeah, that was interesting. Love seeing Zaga back on the pitch. You could still tell he's a little bit, still not got all the footy in his legs yet. Being outdone by Guirassy on that goal. That takes me back to what I wanted to talk about in terms of being professional and doing professional fouls. I was really annoyed that Atakan and Chase did not pull down. I think it was Brandt who set up the goal on that counter. You could tell miles off that this was going to be a good chance on the counter. That's where you take your professional foul in their half, yellow card, fine, whatever. That is what I was talking about earlier. And not doing it when you're on when you're on a yellow card already in Erie. So yeah, don't do it then, but do it, in those circumstances. So yeah, I think that would have been an easy way to have prevented the inevitable Guirassy goal. His reception wasn't too terrible. However, it wasn't the best night for Waldy Anton, was it, Peter, who was roundly booed every single second of the evening, topped off by the fact that El Bilal Touré's goal was deflected in off him as well, which everyone very much enjoyed. Not a good return for any of the ex-VFB chaps. It was something else. Their first 5-1 defeat, Dortmund, since the last time Stuttgart did it, in which a couple of goals for Silas. I think that was the first season that we did the show, actually.
That was the match that Lucien Favre got fired. For that one, yeah,
Nico Gonzalez, and that was a great team. I enjoyed that season. What a Sunday it was. So we will move on. So we'll just finish off with a little bit of chat about the best of the rest. So we'll have 4 games to chat about quickly now, and still some really impressive performances and games to kind of just quickly work through. The first of which is yet another win for Freiburg. They've now handed Heidenheim their second defeat of the season. A brace of goals for Vincenzo Grifo and an absolute worldie from Ritsu Doan. Just setting the tone, really, like just not an awesome goal, cutting inside, in off the post and almost in off the second post. As they pretty much controlled the game. Grifo just showing his great composure inside the box to make the most of both chances, really. So another defeat for Heidenheim, but yeah, the impressive Freiburg go marching on, Peter.
Indeed. It was a lot of the goals came late in the match. They did there, but Julian Schuster, I would not have predicted this. He had some huge shoes to fill for the legendary Christian Streich, and they've gotten off to an excellent start. They are technically second or third in the Bundesliga? Yeah, third behind Leverkusen. Would not have predicted that. The Union Berlin win over Hoffenheim was featured some great play from Tom Rotter, who may be the future Germany national team left back. Another good game from our good Benedikt Hollerbach girl, another great nickname for us. And your Stuttgart man, Zhang, also scored. If anybody's a little bit more interested in hearing what's going on with Hoffenheim, on last week's show, I talked 20 minutes, well, not 20 minutes, but I talked for a good long while in our section on Hoffenheim and Leverkusen about how this how this club is falling apart. And you can learn more about it by looking at last week's show.
Yeah, there was a lot of uproar about the first half played by Hoffenheim. I've seen highlights, but I've not seen extended stuff of that first half. Was it as bad as people said?
Absolutely. It's a cliche to say that people were defending like headless chickens, but Hoffenheim, they really did look like headless chickens. I don't know how else to describe it. They looked like chickens with their heads cut off. It was terrible.
Yeah, it was not pretty to watch at all. So they're two of the four covered. What else did we have? Of course, we had another impressive outing for Frankfurt. The Eagles getting another win. Some more fabulous play by their front forwards. But yeah, Marmoush is just in this ridiculous run of form now. The way that he sat down, I think it was Itakura for his goal. I mean, the fact that he could have taken the shot way earlier, but it was like, nah, I'm just going to sit you down, make you look stupid as well, and then banging my goal. It was excellent. Hugo Larsson obviously getting on the end of a good move as well. And another loss for Gladbach, Peter, but they're still showing signs for me. And I think with a nicer run of fixtures, I think they'll get a couple more wins.
Absolutely. No, there was a lot of positives to take from Gladbach. They hit the post once. Rocco Reitz had some good chances. Good performance by Mr. Kua Santos. How about him filling in for Kevin Trapp, that backup keeper? I guess you guys will be talking about him on the fantasy show a little later this week.
Yeah, absolutely. And just for Justin, of course, our resident RB follower and fan and podcaster. Let's quickly round off the 0-0 game against St. Pauli. I didn't see loads of this, unfortunately, on Sunday night, but I've seen the highlights, seen lots of good things about Pauli and the way that they played Peter. And it's yet another game in which Leipzig cannot do the business against a side that we'd expect them to beat.
Yeah, Justin was mentioning that they were playing with the back three. Actually, they used the 4-2-2 as far as I saw in this one. But they were beaten back by a vastly superior St. Pauli 3-4-3. So it looks like Alexander Blessin may have finally cracked the code with Elias Saad, who we were talking about last week, and the Englishman Afolayan getting starting positions in the front three attacking trident. So a very positive game for the Keats kicker, who finally look like they might be living up to some of the expectations that we had for them in preseason. And those two Aussies, Jackson Irvine and Connor Metcalf. Jackson Irvine doing his best to look increasingly weirder every year that he plays for St. Pauli, whether it's growing a Uto Ladek mustache or dyeing his hair purple. He's taken to the weirdness of St. Pauli. That's what he's done.
Yeah, he's got a look to him, that's for sure. And why not? Settled in very nicely, hasn't he? So yeah, good point for St. Pauli. Not exactly what Leipzig, rough few days for Leipzig after the loss in Madrid, in which I think they played okay and just got done by a late goal, didn't they? Unfortunately, there. So yeah, that covers us for this week on the show. Been really good to work our way through the 5 featured games and talk everything that's happened in this match week just gone. So yeah, thank you to everyone for tuning in with us. All there is left to say is the usual little bits and bobs of business. So as always, if you can leave a thumbs up, please do. Thank you for everyone that's left a comment whilst we've been live. Justin, Steve, Ballum, everyone for watching. Thank you so much. Make sure you sub, turn on notifications. Make sure you also sub via podcasts as well. If you want to find us on X, you can do so by searching at Over the Bar FB and Village Footy 20. Of course, we're on Instagram, posting all our details there. You can search Over the Bar. You will find us there. And of course, we will be back on Thursday for predictions for match week 5 of the Bundesliga and more fantasy football content. So we look forward to seeing you all then. Thank you all for watching. Thank you, Peter. And we'll see you in the next one.
Bye-bye.